Good morning, students. You can take your places. Please sit with your parent. Good morning, dear students and teachers from Azerbaijan. We welcome you to our lesson, which is dedicated to the 30th anniversary of Independence Day of Republic of Kazakhstan. And it's a significant date because it's 16th of December, but we know that the Independence Day of Azerbaijan is going to be soon, in 18th of October. So it's both significant for both of our countries. I have one question for you. Do you hear us well, students from Azerbaijan? Can you greet us?
Yes, we do hear you. Do you see us?
Yes, Miss Ainur?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Please greet your peers in Azerbaijan. Okay. Thank you. Today, the topic of our lesson is the global impact of the closure of Semipalatinsk nuclear test site in Kazakhstan and its role for independent Kazakhstan. So, as you may know, the Semipalatinsk nuclear test site is an important test site which was used during the Soviet times in Kazakhstan. Could you please put the next slide? I hope our students and teachers from Azerbaijan can see the presentation as well. So what is meant to be independent for a country? Kazakhstan is a country with a rich history and deep roots. There is no greater value for us than independence. And this is the boon that our ancestors were seeking for, and it's one of the most important values of our country. Next slide, please. Today, we're going to discuss the objectives of the lesson, which is to understand the consequences, economic, political, and ethical, of the nuclear testing for Kazakhstan's and world history. And second is, we will create a list of proposals of the IB youth from both countries, Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan, work without nuclear weapons. And we will going to analyze documents, historical documents and sources, share ideas and experiences of new generations of independent states. So, as we're both independent states. First thing that we want to do is the brainstorm activity. We will watch the documentary. So, could you please turn the documentary? And after we watch this document, there will be questions for you for discussions. So be ready to answer the questions. Thank you.
By the US, Soviet Union, UK, France, and others. The US did much of the early testing at Bikini Atoll in the South Pacific. The Soviets chose a remote part of what's now Kazakhstan. The story of Bikini Atoll is not a proud one for the US. Local residents there were shuffled inexpertly around nearby islands before the testing, and many were still exposed to dangerous levels of radiation. But as embarrassing as that episode is for the US, it's nothing compared to what happened in Kazakhstan. In 1949, the Soviet Union detonated their very first atomic bomb in an area called Semipalatinsk, known locally as the Polygon. The region was roughly the size of New Jersey, and according to one of the program's architects, it was uninhabited. As it turns out, that claim was off by about 1.5 million people. It's hard to know whether the Soviet military was simply callous in its choice of test site or downright sinister. There are reports of villagers being instructed to step outside their homes before detonations so that the effect of radiation exposure could later be studied. Either way, for 40 years, from 1949 to 1989, the Soviets detonated nuke after nuke here, as many as 456 of them. That's so many that the explosions became almost commonplace for some villagers. Almost every day, recalled one woman, announcements on the radio at noon would say, now there is going to be a test of nuclear weapons. Everything would shake. The windows in my classroom were shattered by the shockwave from one of the blasts. All these tests laid waste to the environment. Rivers and water sources were contaminated, farmland was tainted, and the people began to suffer almost immediately. Cancer rates skyrocketed, as did mental disabilities, infertility, depression, and harrowing birth defects. All in all, around 200,000 people are believed to have suffered directly from radiation. The weapons testing finally ceased with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1989, but the shadow cast by the program remains long. To this day, 1 in 20 children born in the polygon area suffer deformities. The suicide rate is 4 times the national average. And then there's the fact that when the site closed, Russia essentially just walked away, leaving untold amounts of radioactive material behind. The towns in and around the polygon were poor enough that scavenging metal from the old facilities became commonplace, further subjecting locals to radiation. The United States caught wind of this and launched a massive effort with Russia and Kazakhstan to secretly clean up the test site, a mission that wasn't finished until 2012. The moral of this story is that it needs one, is that nuclear testing can leave a mark on a place for generations. The residents of Bikini Atoll still understand this, and Kazakhstan understands it maybe best of all. So well, in fact, that the country has helped lead the charge to ratify the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. The treaty calls for nothing less than a worldwide end to all nuclear detonations, though it won't go into effect until it's ratified by all 44 of the key nations who created it. Russia notably has ratified the treaty, perhaps with the memory of the Polygon fiasco still fresh. And in fact, today there are only 8 holdouts: China, Egypt, Iran, Israel, India, Pakistan, North Korea, and the United States. If you like this video, please subscribe to this channel. We're putting out new stories from around the world all the time. And thanks for watching.
So students both from Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan, you can raise your hands and for the first question, if you have the answer. How did Soviet authorities make a mistake in the location of the nuclear site? Please.
They thought that the area of the polygon was inhabited, but in fact 1.5 million people lived there and were infected by the radiation of the nuclear blast.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next question, that's the correct answer. What did the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty calls for? Students from Azerbaijan.
To stop using
Please. Can you repeat your answer?
mainly to stop using nuclear weapons and testing in civil areas and creating radiations that cause a lot of cancer, diseases, depression.
Okay, to stop completely the test nuclear weapons, right? Thank you. Thank you. And the last question. What policy will the newly created Kazakh state pursue in the beginning of the 90s and onwards regarding the use of nuclear weapons? Anyone from both groups?
Anyone? What's the policy?
Please, you can tell your name and start answering.
The name of the
Excuse me, but we don't hear you well. Could you repeat a bit louder?
What policy did the newly created Kazakh state pursue in the beginning of the 90s onwards regarding the use of nuclear weapons? Stop it.
Yeah, someone said to stop the complete stop of using the nuclear weapons, right? Raise your hand, student, please, and so we can see you because the connection is not stable. Okay.
They have stopped using the nuclear weapons and they've stopped the testing of the nuclear weapons because it was too dangerous for the villagers who inhabited there.
Okay,
Right?
thank you. Good. So from this brainstorm activity, we can move to the next one, please. And now I'm going to just quickly introduce to what happened, and I will continue the topic of this lesson. So first, it was 40 years of functioning from 1949 to 1989. So the first order to actually launch this nuclear site was gave by the Soviet ministers of the USSR, and in 1947, in 21st of August, it was launched. It was more than 468 explosions tested in that area, and the area was of the size of some modern-day states. So it was a huge area of 18,000 square kilometers. So you can imagine the square and the importance of this nuclear site. And the main city inside of it was the secret town called Semipalatinsk 21, under the code name, which is now the town called Kurchatov. So the total power of explosions was 2,500 times more than in Hiroshima, and more than 1.5 million people were affected, and a lot of people were disabled and were killed because of these explosions, and etc. And there were, of course, in August 29th of 1991, the president of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev, unilaterally and forever closed one of the largest nuclear test sites in the world. So this day, 29th of August, is important because 29th of August of 1949, there was a first explosion tested in this site, and now it's the last one. Was the date of the closure was of August 29th of 1991. And one of the reasons why it was closed was the social movement which started in Kazakhstan in the end of the 1980s. It's called Nevada Semipalatinsk, and under the leadership of a famous Kazakh poet, Olzhas Suleimenov, as you may know. So signatures came from more than 2 million people were involved in this movement, and they actually, the goal of this movement was to completely shut down all the nuclear sites in the world. So it was global, it wasn't just local Kazakhstan's movement. And one of the decisions made by Kazakhstan was to sign the Universal Declaration on Building a Nuclear Weapon-Free World, and this was signed by Kazakhstan and many other powers in the world, including our two countries. Thank you. And now the task for both groups, students, is to use this QR code or the link which is given to you, and for our students, we have here it printed. So now you can read this document, the Universal Declaration on the Achievement of the Nuclear Weapon-Free World. And there's a few pages of it, but the most importantly, the question is, what is the global impact of Kazakhstan? Because Kazakhstan was one of the initiator countries of this document to achieve a nuclear-free world. So we'll give you around 4 minutes to find this and to say which points of this treaty, of this declaration, were showing us the global impact of Kazakhstan. That Kazakhstan is actually is a power which tries to insist and enforce the not using nuclear weapons. Okay, we see that student from Azerbaijan is ready to answer. Okay, I should read the answer which is given by the student from Azerbaijan. It is a persuasion for other countries to stop nuclear production because Kazakhstan is one of the best examples of the bad results of nuclear power. Thank you. Can you please specify which points of this treaty, of this declaration, is showing exactly what Kazakhstan is trying to do on a global scale? So, which terms of this declaration, you can write the number of the terms as well, to not write the whole term. And the same question is for our group here. Anyone ready, students? You have a mic?
The impact of Kazakhstan on the elimination of all nuclear weapons in the world is point 12, 13, and 16. Moreover, Kazakhstan contributed to the formation of the universal peace in the world between all 44 countries and even more. And also, Kazakhstan contributed to the elimination as well.
Show the global impact of Kazakhstan to the anti-nuclear weapons policy.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the answer was given from from one of the students in our group, and let's see if we have the same answer with a group from Azerbaijan. So, students from Kazakhstan all agree, right, that these are the terms number
12, 13, and 16.
Okay, thank you. And I hope the students from Azerbaijan were also coming up with the same numbers. Okay, so have you had the chance to read the whole document, to go through the whole document, students? Azerbaijani students?
Could you please repeat the question?
Did you go through all the points of the treaty, of the declaration?
So, if I'm not mistaken, you're looking for the numbers of the declaration, right?
Yes. Yes. Probably it's some miscommunication here, but I hope that was clear. That the purpose of this task was to show the importance of Kazakhstan on the world scene as a power which tries to impose the non-use of nuclear weapons and riddance of them for the free world, free from nuclear weapons. And the students just wrote the numbers of these terms. Thank you. Now let's move to the task number 1, and this is a very important task because both our students will contribute at the same time. So, students from Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan, you should go to the Padlet, the link for which is given here on the desktop. So now students from Kazakhstan will move to their seats and work with the laptops. And students from Azerbaijan, you can see it before you. You can go to this link, move to this link, and follow the instruction here. So we will work in 2 teams, Team Kazakhstan and Team Azerbaijan. Both teams will use the Padlet link, in which you have 2 sides, one with Azerbaijani flag and one with Kazakhstan flag. And the students with Kazakhstan flag will work on the left side, where Kazakhstan flag is, and Azerbaijan side will work on the right side of this Padlet. So could you please open this Padlet, where you will find the table. And as we already said, this year is a significant year for both of our countries. We have 30th anniversary of success and recognition, which mean that we have a lot of things and memorable events that we can share with each other. So what were the significant global initiatives that were caused by Kazakh side and by Azerbaijani side around these 30 years, during these 30 years? You can list all the achievements of your country in the list, and this can be political or security or economy or culture or military achievements, and you can put them in the appropriate space of this Padlet. Is instruction clear, students from Azerbaijan? Raise your hand if you find this clear, because I see just your images. For this task, we have around 15 minutes for completion. Students from Kazakhstan, could you please start doing so that our friends from Azerbaijan will see on your example? What do you consider as the main achievements in the different spheres concerning the global issues of both countries? Okay, as I said, we have a special tip for you, right? So you can start. Okay. Okay. While we from our students, what did they put for achievements from the Kazakhstan side? So let's speak up. You can.
So the first point. So the first point was about the culture. With the initiative of the president, leaders of worldwide and traditional religions had a meeting in 2003 in Astana. The meeting benefited the tolerance and cultural understanding between representatives of different religions and civilizations. And the second point is about the security. In January 2018, Kazakhstan became a Security Council President of United Nations and established mutually beneficial relationships with US and NATO in order to achieve peace in the world.
Okay, thank you. Please.
Сюда, ближе, ближе, ближе.
In 2025, participated in peacekeeping operations of the international coalition forces in Iraq. Here, Kazakhstanis were entrusted in mine clearness and neutralized more than 4 million mines.
And as a result, in August 2021, it will be 30 years since the Semipalatinsk nuclear test site was closed. The first president of the Republic of Kazakhstan, which is Nursultan Nazarbayev, made the decisions on the voluntary reincarnation of nuclear weapons. With this decision, Elbasy closed the first largest nuclear complex in the world, landfills, delivery of vehicles, development complexes, and since then, Kazakhstan has consistently promoted the ideas of the destruction and non-proliferation of nuclear weapons in the world.
Okay, thank you. And economic achievements which were listed by our students. And it will be very good to also get some information from our guest side. Go to the center, please, so they can see you.
Okay, so the first point is the manifesto of Nursultan Nazarbayev, our first president, that was called Peace of 21st Century, and its main goal was to achieve a nuclear weapon-free world. Then the second one is that our group was proposed to hold a venue for communication in connection with the war in Syria. Also in May of 2014, in Astana was a treaty about the EAEU was signed. In 2014, there was a global risk expert exhibition held to create communication between the governments and the businesses. And lastly, Kazakhstan was the first country in the post-Soviet area which started the realization of green economics idea. Thank you.
It's really, thank you very much for our groups. Should we wait more time from Ms. Ainur? Can you hear us?
But your voice sometimes is coming, sometimes we are using that.
Okay.
For instance, now I don't.
Did you write something in the right side of the table of a Padlet?
Yes, they did. It shows us that the rankings are waiting for approval.
Okay, now I see. Yeah, it's already approved. You wrote just one, but it's a lot of content. So, who is from your side is going to present this for us?
Excuse me? What?
Who is going to present this information?
Who is going to present?
Yes.
They can present separately?
Yes.
So they can come one by one and present you if you like.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Approve our comment.
Yes.
There's 1 minute. It is named Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan National Cultural Connections.
You can start, thank you.
Okay, I will read this. This is a lady.
Yes.
But I will read. Okay. So, Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan national and cultural connections. Both Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan are coming of Turkish origin and share the same lifestyle, culture, beliefs, and the most important, the language. Nowadays, an Azerbaijani and Kazakh can understand each other in their language.
So I will be mentioning the politics. Azerbaijan has freed Karabakh as it was a political issue for a really long time. This opens up many opportunities as Azerbaijan reclaimed their indigenous lands back. This victory could diversify our relations with other countries. Azerbaijan is planning to build the road between other countries via Karabakh, such as Turkey and other countries that can include Kazakhstan. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is and I wanted to talk about the initiatives in terms of peace in Azerbaijan between the Caucasus and Kazakhstan. So one of the main initiatives of Azerbaijan has been and is to become fully independent in terms of the Karabakh topic. For over the 30 years of period of time, we were having disputes with Armenians in terms of the Karabakh region. As the Karabakh regions have been reclaimed by Azerbaijan, we have gone our territories back. We want to improve the peace in terms of the Caucasus region, and we want to form a safe zone in terms of the Caucasus region between both the countries in Caucasus and also Azerbaijan, so that we can have a safer environment for peace to be applied. And one of our initiatives is also to increase the volume of export and import in all areas of trade cooperation between Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan. As an instance, I can state that during the first 7 months of 2021, the trade turnover between Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan has been amounted to approximately $62 million in compensation dollars, $62 million. We're aiming to increase that amount by both improving the relations of Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan and also the products that are being traded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's really interesting to know about our relations.
I'm Kural Abdullah. Azerbaijan is also looking forward to be the gateway between Europe and Asia. So trading, security, and other things are very much easier between Europe and Asia. Azerbaijan is also looking forward to become one of the safest zones in between Europe and Asia, and is looking forward to take more initiatives towards reaching this goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. As I heard, your name was Abdullah. Thank you, Abdullah. And that's really interesting for our students to know the different initiatives that were launched by Azerbaijan in terms of peace, economy, and politics. And if you will follow our presentation, it's going to be the concluding activity of today's lesson. And after that, we're going to reflect on what we have done during the lesson. And from this task, both of our groups, Kazakh group and Azerbaijani group, we all shared that we had 30 years of success and prosperity. Okay, of course, there were challenges for both of our countries in terms of economy or peace, but we overcome this successfully throughout these years. So let's now focus on the task number 2, and for both of our groups, the task will be the same. So if in the previous task you worked in the separate groups, now you're going to work as one group. And for this task, we need to create a product which is going to be called a list of proposals for the world without nuclear weapons. So imagine that this is year 2050. So we're moving from the past to present and the future. 2050, and you as a students from Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan, you are now the leaders of your country. You are intellectual and political elite of your countries. And now, as elite representatives, you are going to implement the new policies that will keep world free from the nuclear weapons. What will be your proposals? So you can think about them and provide the list of your own proposals on how to keep the world safe from the nuclear weapons. And what will be your contribution to that? Thank you. I hope my voice was clear for you students from Azerbaijan and for our students as well. And you we're going to have around 10 minutes to this task. Okay. Alright, students, so now we have the sources about the role of the president to make your work more easier. So there are sources that can be analyzed for Azerbaijan team, but the list of proposals in the bottom line of the previous Padlet. So there will be one list of proposals for both of our groups. For your group?
Yes, it is clear, but I'm just trying to share the link with the students because they don't have access, they don't have this slide, maybe that's why. So now I received in the website chat, so I will share them now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ребята,
Так, давайте.
там отдельным цветом будет выделять то, что мы будем делать сейчас, хорошо, чтобы не впутать в предыдущее.
Давайте розовый.
В общем, у нас два предложения. Во-первых, это, в принципе, уже нужен, который к 45 году должен быть уже готов. И второе, это как можно, ну, в общем, привлечь внимание всего мира к жертвам. Чтобы люди власть по полигону, в принципе, знали, и чтобы им оказывалась помощь, а не вот такая. Да. Еще потому что если это знать, то они будут просто объективно, это не надо.
Телом центр заблокирует.
А зачем? Здесь говорят просто.
Математик 6 катров. Века миллиона.
There are several appeals already made, proposals already made, and now we're going to wait for more, for about 3 to 4 minutes. Not delete any other posts, okay? Students from Azerbaijan, make sure that you do not delete any information written by you or by us. Thank you.
or at least resolve conflicts without involvement local conflicts of nuclear weapons.
When you're going to say, please make sure that you will not use whatever Is Kazakhstan group almost ready? Yes. Or do we need more time? You're ready. Okay, good. Thank you. And let's wait response from our friends. Now we are going to start to present, because the time is also a very valuable resource, which we don't have a lot. And now each of our peers will going to present one of their proposals by coming and greeting you in the front. So you will see them and their contribution, their proposals. You will hear them well. So could you please start? Let's start from this Margarita.
So hello, it's Iraf and Margarita. Our country has suffered from the usage of nuclear weapons, and thus we have to share our experience to prevent the repetition of these terrifying events. And our proposal is?
Firstly, we need to show how the victims were affected by the nuclear polygons, like for instance in Timay and Nevada, and to provide material support for them. And secondly, it is important to make international meetings once in a year, for instance, to show the awareness and support the idea of sustainably safe world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next player. If I will have questions, I will ask you after, okay? But so far, no questions.
We would like to say about another step against nuclear power in the Kazakhstan and in the world at all. It is the conference which was on 29th of August 2012 in our capital of Kazakhstan, Astana, which was based on main idea against nuclear power. There are many countries who was also in this conference, which is Turkey, Azerbaijan, Russia, USA, and others. There was also presented a project, which is a worldwide project which is called Atom, and it is against the nuclear testing, and every single person on the earth could sign the petition against the atomic bombs and nuclear explosions and their testing. So we present that we want more of these projects to come into the world, and maybe it will make the change.
Thank you. So your proposal was basically about starting from the society, right? And social changes will cause political and anti-nuclear changes. Thank you. Thank you. Good. And your pair, you has mic, and you can come with your mic.
So the proposal we choose is to use nuclear energy for science and development of factories and other faculties.
As we all know, we can direct this energy into economic and social development rather than investing it in weapons which are deadly and which can only inflict harm and damage.
How will you do that?
By developing the nuclear spheres of science, maybe by using nuclear sources of energy, I guess, like the nuclear plants in US and in other developed countries.
Will you make sure that you will use only peaceful nuclear weapon energy?
Yeah, I mean, we can direct the power required to make weapons to science, to economic development, to helping other poor countries where maybe wars happen, wars and conflicts.
Okay, thank you. That is good contribution. Can you please pass the microphone to the next pair?
A lot of proposals today, and our pair thinks that one of the main proposals is to think about past. We cannot reach to the bright future without thinking about past, without solving the consequences that are already existing and are still influencing our society and the whole humanity actually. Such horrific events that happened in the past, we still are covering. We still have wounds that must be covered and that must be healed. So basically, we firstly need to support people who are experiencing damage and different health issues because of the polygon testing that happened a long time ago. And we need to take care of them first. We need to take care of the environment that was influenced by this cruel testings. And only then, only when we'll mitigate all the damage that happened in the past, only then we will be able to go further and to reach the brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it's also about compensations and material help to victims of nuclear sites. Okay.
So our pair wants to suggest to create an organization to control of the usage of atomic weapons and to prevent using it during the war and applying it as well. Because first of all, we should stop making our past mistake to prevent new mistake.
Okay, that's it. Okay. So your solution is to kind of create an international organization which will control the use of nuclear weapons and avoid countries to achieve nuclear weapons. Okay, good. That is also similar to other groups, but also it's a good way of propose the solution. Thank you. Thank you. Is this all? Okay. Continue, please.
So we have the last point. We offer to reach the worldwide understanding and peace through the international conversation and discussion. So if this will not help, at least we need to persuade people not to use nuclear weapons and solve the problems and conflicts without the involvement of them.
Okay, one more question which maybe sounds off topic, but if there is some military threat to your country, would you use assistance of your neighbors who have the nuclear weapons? Just a possible scenario.
Actually, we need to start from making conversation and discussions with the countries who are involved in this conflict. And then, if it will not help, then we will need to connect with the neighbors who have nuclear weapons, because it is one safe way to support our country.
Good. So it's still one of the options, you mean, right?
It's still one of the options, but we can use language, we can use discussions in order to prevent it.
Mm-hmm. Which we call diplomacy.
Yes.
Right. Thank you very much. Diplomacy is always a better solution than a war, right? Thank you for all the groups from the Kazakhstan. And now we give our turn to our friends in Azerbaijan to propose the list of proposals for not preventing the use of nuclear weapons in the near future. Thank you. We'll give you a time.
We can start with group 1.
Thank you.
Then we'll come to yes, you
We have a proposal by Azerbaijan concerning the Metsahol electric station. There's a nuclear test site in Armenia which has a dangerous impact on the Caucasian regions. Metsahol electric station needs to be abandoned because it is a place in a tectonic plate that is very cracked. Any kind of earthquake and it can result in a far more dangerous situation than what happened in Chernobyl.
And they also place their nuclear waste in the Karabakh region during the 30 year of occupation. And it's very dangerous for border countries of Armenia, such as Azerbaijan, Turkey, Georgia, Iran, and the whole Caucasian region. That's why Kazakhstan can support Azerbaijan and other countries in the Caucasus by diplomatically to convince Armenia to close their nuclear plant.
Yes, Azerbaijan is also willing to cooperate with Kazakhstan in the atom project that they're doing. And yes, most of the points that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions to that?
Any questions, students? No, everything was clear. Thank you.
Sorry?
Everything was clear for students. Thank you. It was.
Another student?
Is this all that you wanted to share with us?
Yes, for the first group, yes. Now
Okay.
for the second. Ready? Could you respond?
No more hard power. So one of the proposals could be the usage of soft and smart power rather than the hard power. We know that there are a lot of bad consequences when it comes to hard power, and it has a lot of physical and psychological effects towards the people as it uses military power rather than diplomatic power. Using violence and military against one another can cause a lot of problems, not to the people within the countries, but also to the future generations of the countries. Thank you.
Our students noticed that it was a very useful solution, and it was also similar to one of the students' solution from our group. So thank you very much for your contribution, the students.
Thank you.
Okay, we are still waiting for continuation.
Okay. My name is Isabel, and as we know, Kazakhstan has a great experience on anti-nuclear movement. So they can share their experiences with the other countries that are still continuing continuing to use their nuclear plants, such as, the big nations, let's say. Kazakhstan can collaborate with these nations in order to share their experiences, that they can stop all the power plants on Earth. So by 2050, the Earth can be a more peaceful place. Thank you.
Thank you very much for appreciating and for providing information that the fact that Kazakhstan is really a peaceful power which seeks, first of all, the peaceful solution to the problems. Thank you very much. And it's nearly the time of the end of our lesson. And if there is no one else to share their proposals, we are going to conclude this lesson by showing you the last slide of our presentation. Last two slides of our presentation. The first one, after this task, so we thank you everyone for such fruitful and productive conversation that we had. And there are a list of proposals which is saved in our Padlet, and we will share this information from the Padlet with all of our participants today and with teachers. And now it's a time for reflection, so please students, you have the access to the presentations as well. Use your QR codes and your mobile phones in order to get the access to the reflection form, Google form. And there are several questions that you can address according to your today's experience. So these are all questions should be answered individually, and there is not much time for these questions, so they're easy to answer. And that is also for our Azerbaijani friends as well. So you can share your experience. What was new information from today's lesson? Did you have any challenges or some things that you want to clarify after these lessons? Do you want to continue this kind of friendship and collaboration lessons with our school in the future? And how will you assess your own involvement during the lesson? And any recommendations to improve the lessons in the future. So use this QR form, a QR code and link for reflection. All these answers for the questions will be read through them after some time, after the time of this lesson. After this lesson is over. And also one more note is we want to say a huge thank you to our team in Azerbaijan and your teacher Aynur. Miss Aynur, thank you for your attention and collaboration. Teşekkürler, if I said that correctly.
Thank you very much for this. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Yes, the students are finalizing survey. So they are finalizing the survey. Probably they will send 1 minute there.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And our students we're also very thankful to you, and they're saying goodbye to you, to our team in Azerbaijan.
До свидания, ребята.
Спасибо всем. Вы ответили на вопросы? Did you answer the questions?